CICS, and we're looking forward to bringing you our lunchtime webinar, ISO 50001, the Energy Management Must-Have. Well done to those who have joined us. This is the first time the EAUC have sold out spaces, which shows what a popular topic this is. Richard Hipkiss, Director of Digital Energy, will outline why the energy management system is important for the Hereford education sector and discuss how having an energy management system can help with finding ways of using energy more efficiently, potentially reducing energy bills. Richard will share his knowledge of the hurdles he's seen and how to overcome them when implementing. After Richard, I'll talk about the international standard and how it can help to ensure that your energy management system maintains and effectively monitored. Over to you, Richard.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear us okay. I've noticed that there's a few messages coming through saying the volume's very low. If that continues, just keep dropping it on the text and we'll try and address it. Might just need to speak louder. I'll try and shout so you can hear me from wherever you are. ISO 50001, a very new standard, as I'm sure you all know. Continuation on from 16001, and something that, as an energy practitioner, has been something that the market has been crying out for a long time. Now, ISO 50001 is very much about changing behaviour, and well, what changes behaviour? I'm sure we all agree that the number one influence of changing behaviour is cost. So as you can see, we know the gas price index has doubled, tripled in some areas over the last 10-year period. Electricity market price tends to follow that, as we know. Predictions are that that's only going to continue in one direction. I recently saw Ofgem publication stating a probable 25% increase in the next 10 years. I personally think that's possibly undercooking it. Now, linked with the direct cost of energy consumption, we can't forget the indirect costs. The indirect costs associated with compliance or additional administration and management costs from ERC, big game changer, EU ETS, Energy Performance and Buildings Directive. I'm sure you've all have your decks on your walls of your universities and colleges to engage with all of the staff and students and visitors to the university. When will that stop? Well, if the government actions continue to drive towards that 80% reduction by 2050, then it's not going to stop, and we can expect more pain. So I'm sure we've got some energy managers, environmental managers on the line. Does anybody know an energy manager with time to spare, time on their hands, and not a clue what they're going to do tomorrow? Most of the universities that I work with or speak to, common thread is not enough time in the week, not enough hands in the team, and and actually process, procedure, structure, as well as it goes in place to action in one area, it becomes a challenge when something new comes out. Now, this is where energy management systems come in. Energy management systems, there is a common perception that an energy management system is an AMR system or M&T or automatic monitoring and targeting. Couldn't be far wrong. There has been a lot of mismarketing around energy management systems over the last 25 years, from metering companies, BMS companies, and the likes, that has set this perception in stone. Actually, an energy management system is, by definition, focused upon the management framework, the continual improvement of policies, procedures, etc. It just so happens that the context of it is energy. So a focus on direct consumption, gas, oil, and indirect consumption, electricity. So by definition, an energy management system brings together a series of policies, processes, procedures, and by design, much more than just metering, but of course including it. So back to your juggling act, your hands full. Lots of individual actions and tasks. How many universities have an effective and coordinated plan that's future-proof? Yeah, I'm sure the carbon management plans are in place, documentation, but does that link with the organizational operation structure? ISO 50001 is all about continual improvement. Plan, do, check, act cycle. So actually bringing together everything that you need to consider and possibly already are considering in a structure for improvement. There are really 3 levels of an energy management system: the policy and the objectives that deliver the vision, that deliver the requirements through to the organization, that can be captured within the Energy Management Systems Manual and underpinned and supported by procedures, forms, registers, records, standard ways of approaching standard tasks. And of course, software does play a part. So a lot of you will have metering and monitoring systems, BMS, possibly even integration into finance management systems, systems that enable you to have the administration of energy, engage with occupants, stakeholders, and report to key stakeholders. So software does play an important part. What's important of that software or paper approach to ISO 50001 is that it focuses on the management of aspects. So within your defined boundary, so university campus or university operations, and that identifies the aspects to which the documentation should cover in the entirety, which then enables data and more data to be handled, to be considered for the different stakeholders. Some stakeholders may need detailed profile information, others progression, a red, amber, green, others more of a quick, pure summary. Are we meeting our energy objectives, or are we not meeting our energy objectives? Now, what's very, very important to underpin an ISO 50001 management system is the baseline. What's important to establish that baseline is consumption data, demand profiles, how energy is consumed on the site, what influences that. So what we call factors in the management system: policy, be that internal or external policy, weather, direction of the university, the college, technology. How have we all fared with IT? We've gone over the last 20 to 30 years with students working with pens and paper to everybody having a laptop, or a laptop, an iPad, an iPhone, and God knows what else these days. And how does that influence procurement? I think there's a lot of austerity out there in various different sectors, focusing on the lowest cost procurement practices. Does lowest cost always mean lowest life cycle cost when it comes to energy consumption? Management system would recognize that. And just to show the biggest barrier, important to starting off on the right foot, start with a poor baseline, most likely leads to an inappropriate target, which most likely leads to missing the target, loss of confidence, difficult to maintain, back to business as usual, and whatever the next legislation requirement is or university policy driver is, affects energy consumption. So some real key questions to get you off on the footing in terms of ISO 50001. What do you want to achieve and how will you achieve it? If you did succeed, how would the organization benefit? What are the barriers? And a real important consideration in terms of implementing the management system: what are the key steps? Who need to be involved? What's the timescales? What restrictions and constraints are you going to come across? So typically there, in my experience, people involved, it needs to go beyond the energy team to be successful. You take, for example, procurement, absolutely essential to involve finance and procurement people within the development of the processes that ultimately they need to follow. Restrictions and constraints, well, as with a lot of sectors, there are things that you have to do. There are reports that you have to provide, and there are policy pressures from academia that impact on energy consumption. Back to timescale, how long's the road? Well, ultimately, ISO 50001 is not a quick implementation. I think where we've worked with customers, a 3-month timescale to first stage assessment is achievable but challenging. More realistic is to implement energy management systems over a period of 12 months or even longer. Shameless sales plug, I'm afraid, but there's a lot of training out there around 50001. Our own guys have sat on training, and if you want to know what's in clause 4.21, 4.36 and 4.54, there's lots of open training courses out there from lots of big name providers. You want some training in real implementation, actually following case studies and actually talking about overcoming the barriers and not just what's in the clauses. We've got a few dates that we're offering through the Digital Energy Academy, very reasonable prices. So, key messages, ISO 50001. 50001 is systematic, it is target driven. Key thing is not to wait for legislation to drive it, to really strengthen your approach now. Also, there's a common approach across many sectors, HE being one of them. I believe that compliance is a driver. Try and look beyond the legal parameters, and embedding an integrity mindset really helps embed continual improvement. And what we've seen from early 50001 case studies is that pound savings are real through awareness, integration of that management system. Gives you an opportunity to focus on the long-term strategy, but there's also the means to demonstrate results in the short term. The 50001 fits very well with current initiatives. It would help Green League status, help reporting on the hefty returns, and also if you're a CRC captured participant, it helps with the or overlaps with the requirements for the CRC evidence path. So, just on a closing point, and this was a poignant quote that I've taken from the chair of the 50001 committee. Never met the chap, but he sounds very, very intelligent by this quote. As an individual organisation, you can't control energy prices, government policies, or the global economy, but you can improve the way that you manage energy in your own boundary, in the here and now. Thank you very much for listening there. I'll be around to take questions, but I want to hand over to Anne-Marie now, who's going to talk you through the certification process. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. I will cover 3 things about the certification of your energy management system to ISO 50001. First, we start with 4 reasons why the higher and further education sector are choosing to certify to the standard. Second, we'll run through the step-by-step certification process. And thirdly, we'll conclude with what you should look for from a certification body. So let's begin with the 4 reasons why this sector is choosing ISO 50001 certification. By committing to third-party certification, it outwardly shows confidence in your system and shows commitment to stakeholders, staff and students. The proportion of universities are currently engaged in schemes such as EcoCampus, Green Dragon or the Carbon Trust, but these schemes are not internationally recognised standards, whereas holding a UCAS ISO 50001 certification has the highest level of gravitas. National University Galway was the second university in Ireland to be certified to ISO 50001, and their reasons for doing so are documented in the newsroom on our website. There are often very direct incentives to certification, which are driven by external factors, such as securing or gaining access to greater funding from the Higher Education Funding Council. And when I've spoken to universities, one of their reasons for certification is to aid with improving their green rankings with table structures of People and Planet Green League. The formal framework ISO brings covers areas where points are awarded. For example, Sheffield Home University was ranked 27th in 2011, and after gaining ISO 30001 certification, a ranking of 19th was achieved. This is also true for accredited certification to ISO 14001, with the other two examples I've given here. The success of implementing and maintaining the energy management system can be measured, and through the increasing portfolio of case studies, the percentage savings in this sector is impressive. This is because the ISO standards provide a robust structure of best practices, and with the third-party certification process, attaining and maintaining certification encourages internal discipline, which organisations require to pursue their objectives. The external friendly pressure exercise during the initial assessment and the 6-monthly surveillance programme can aid you and your sustainability champions to keep focused and disciplined the intent of the standard and pulls your sustainability projects together so that you're working towards a common goal. Certification streamlines current energy consuming assets and creates exemplary management behaviours and best practices. Therefore, this ensures continual progress is kept on target, and particularly with the varied range of building stock and the energy bill of an educational institution making up a large proportion of running costs, this sector is an ideal candidate for ISO 50001. There are large energy savings to be made, plus achievement can be measured and environmental performance apparently improved. Moving on to the step-by-step certification process. And when people ring up inquiring about certification, I always recommend they download their own copy of the standard from the ISO website. Then they can see what the standard covers, and it's what the auditor audits against. And many people are already familiar with the plan, do, check, and act cycle. The clients who aren't sure if their energy management system meets all the requirements, they often choose to have an optional pre-assessment, which is a gap analysis that compares what their energy management system has compared with what the standard requires. At the end of the site visit, a report will list the clauses in the standard which require attention. Once gaps have been filled, or if the site is competent to start at stage 1, the management systems auditor and the energy expert will visit site for an audit, produce a report with actions. When all non-conformities are completed in stage 1, a stage 2 audit is arranged. Looking at stage 1 in more detail, these are some of the areas the management systems auditor and energy expert will look into, and this stage assesses the site's documentation against the standard. The energy expert will evaluate the energy baseline, energy review, and performance indicators. Recertifying universities to ISO 50001, we've seen the added value of ensuring a robust foundation is laid, particularly in establishing a suitable energy baseline ready for energy efficiency improvements to be based upon. Items such as management responsibility, checking that documented policies and plans are in place, as well as a robust procedure for management review and internal audits are checked. The final step is to confirm that the site is ready to proceed to stage 2, which is the implementation audit. Stage 2 checks if you're doing what you said you would do in stage 1, and if it is driving continual energy efficiency improvements. The auditor will spend time on site to evaluate your implementation and maintenance of your energy management system. For example, within your training plan, you state that all students and staff will be told about ISO 50001 and what it means by a certain date. After this date, the auditor may start some students, lecturers, and cleaning staff on the spot to ask them After this visit, a technical review is carried out of the whole certification process, and if successful, certification to the ISO 50001 standard will be achieved. Since it's a new standard to us all, the auditors will work with you and explain the non-conformities and observations so that you can action them before the next stage or surveillance visit. It's an ongoing project that will never be concluded, which needs continuing resource to ensure it's effective and ensuring continual improvement in energy efficiency. During the visits, there are reviews of the implementation of the action plan, addressing the past non-conformities, and examinations of certain mandatory and other selected parts of the system in line with an audit plan that you are provided before each visit. Before the third anniversary of the initial certification, a routine visit will be extended to enable a recertification audit. Surveillance visits will then continue, as before, on a 3-year cycle. Moving on to the last section, what you should look for from the certification body. You need auditors who are familiar with the way things work in the higher and further education sectors. You need auditors who would challenge your current way of doing things and bring their knowledge of best practices from their experience. It is worth noting that ISO audits can be combined with other assessments, such as carbon footprint verification, and it's important that the audit focuses on particular issues which are important to your agenda and fit around your schedule. To conclude, we've looked at 4 reasons why the sector is choosing to certify their energy management system to ISO 50001 standard, namely because it's internationally recognised, it meets external drivers. The success is measured by both increased rankings and percentage savings proven by case studies, and it provides a team focus for current environmental projects. It's an outline of the step-by-step certification process, and I've touched upon what you look for from a certification body to ensure that the energy management system continually improves. So thank you for listening. We'll now move through to the live question and answer session, which Richard and I are looking forward to. So bring on your difficult